The world is changing, and not for the better. In the frozen lands of northern Alaska, something terrifying is happening. Global warming has been melting the polar ice caps for years. The ice that once stood thick and solid for thousands of years is now cracking, shrinking, and disappearing. And deep beneath that ancient ice, something has been waiting, something that has been locked away for centuries. Something that the world forgot about a long time ago. As the last layer of ice finally melts away, a massive creature breaks free from its frozen prison. It stretches its enormous wings, opens its eyes, and lets out a roar that shakes the entire landscape. This is Wyvern, the legendary ice dragon. And after centuries of being trapped, it is finally awake. And it is absolutely starving. Not far from where the dragon has risen, a fisherman sits quietly by the lake, doing what he does every morning. He catches his fish, pulls them out of the water, and begins removing the bones. But the knife slips, and he cuts his finger. It is a small wound, barely anything. He dips his hand into the cold lake water to clean it off. One single drop of blood falls into the water. That is enough. The surface of the lake explodes as the ice dragon bursts out from beneath it, enormous and furious, driven completely mad by hunger. The fisherman spins around and runs as fast as his legs can carry him, but there is nowhere to go. The dragon corners him against the rocks, opens its massive jaws, and that is the end of the fisherman. The dragon's return has begun. In the small town of Beaver Mills, life continues as normal, at least for now. It is a quiet, remote little town where everyone knows each other, and outsiders tend to stand out. The town has its routines, its familiar faces, and its upcoming festival, one of the most exciting events of the year for the locals. But lately, some new faces have arrived in town, and they are still getting used to the strange rhythm of Alaska. The long days and even longer nights take some adjustment. One of these newcomers is Jake, a big, quiet man who works as a truck driver, or at least he used to. After a devastating accident on the road that took the life of his brother, Jake could not bring himself to drive again. So he moved to Beaver Mills and started working as a carpenter, trying to rebuild his life one nail at a time. Jake is not the kind of man who talks much. He keeps to himself, shows up to work, and tries not to think too hard about the past. But people notice him anyway. One morning, Jake is fixing up the front of a local diner when Claire walks out to bring him a coffee. Claire works at the diner and has a warm, easy way about her, the kind of person who makes strangers feel welcome without even trying. She is about to hand Jake the cup when Dr. David appears out of nowhere. David is the town doctor. He is confident, polished, and clearly used to getting what he wants. He takes the coffee right out of Claire's hand, the coffee that was meant for Jake, and then casually invites Claire to a medical convention in the next town. Claire refuses. She has refused before. David is not happy about it, and he leaves with a tight smile that does not quite reach his eyes. Claire turns back to Jake and apologizes for the whole awkward scene. As a thank you for his work, she invites him inside for something to eat. Jake accepts. Inside the diner, Jake meets Edna. She is an older woman who comes in every single morning and always orders 2 breakfasts, one for herself and one for her friend, placed on the table across from her, untouched. Her friend passed away recently, and Edna has not been able to let go. She still sets a place for her every day, as if expecting her to walk through the door. Jake understands that feeling more than he would like to admit. Claire notices the look on Jake's face and quietly tells him how sorry she is about his brother, but Jake is not ready to talk about it. He finishes his coffee, thanks her, and heads home. That same morning across town, Colonel Travis wakes up and steps outside to feed his dog. He is a no-nonsense military man, the kind of person who has seen a lot in his life and does not scare easily. But what happens next stops him cold. A moose head falls from the sky and crashes right in front of his garden. It lands with a heavy thud on the ground and Travis just stares at it. A whole moose head from the sky, with no explanation. The story spreads through town within hours. Hampton, a young woman who runs the Beaver Mills radio station, reports it on air. Most people laugh it off as a bizarre prank, someone trying to create a stir before the upcoming town festival. The whole thing is treated like a joke, but it is not a joke. It is a warning. Jake hears the story and does not think much of it either. He is walking back to his trailer when Dr. David shows up at his door. David says he noticed that Jake's hand has been in bad shape since the road accident, probably a dislocated joint that never healed properly, and offers to treat it free of charge. Jake lets him in. David fixes up the hand, which feels better almost immediately, but then the doctor's real reason for coming becomes clear. He wants to know if Jake has any feelings for Claire. Jake tells him no. He says that as soon as he receives the insurance payout from the accident, he plans to leave Beaver Mills and move to another city. David is visibly relieved to hear this. He packs up his medical bag, refuses any payment, and leaves with a much better mood than he arrived with. On his way back through town, David decides to stop in the forest to take a quick break. He parks his car and steps out into the trees, and then he hears something. A massive sound, like the beating of enormous wings, coming from somewhere above the treetops. David looks up. The ice dragon drops out of the sky and lands directly in front of his car, blocking his way. It is enormous. It is terrifying, and it is staring right at him. David does the only thing he can. He runs into the trees and hides. He crouches behind a thick trunk, barely breathing, waiting. After what feels like forever, the sounds fade. The dragon seems to have gone. David creeps back toward his car, his hands shaking as he reaches for the door handle, and then the dragon comes back. It slams into the car with full force and sinks its teeth into David before he can even scream. The doctor disappears into the darkness of the forest. The next morning, a local man known as H heads into the forest for his usual hunting trip. He is experienced and knows these woods well, but this morning, something is off. He notices strange droppings on the ground, not from any animal he has ever seen before. He crouches down to look closer. The Wyvern dragon drops down right in front of him. H does not freeze. He raises his rifle and fires. The shots crack through the air and echo across the forest. Sheriff Dawson hears them. He is standing outside the diner talking to Jake when the gunshots ring out, and he immediately heads toward the sound. Jake goes with him. They find H standing in the middle of the road, completely shaken. His eyes are wide and his voice is unsteady as he tells them what he saw. A creature, a monster, something that came straight out of a nightmare and tried to eat him alive. He says it was like nothing from this world. This world. The sheriff stares at him for a long moment. Then he tells H to go to the police station and give his statement, clearly not believing a single word. But Jake is not listening anymore. He is looking at something in the trees. He walks closer and stops. There, lying on the forest floor, is a human arm, and Jake recognizes it immediately. The shirt sleeve, the watch. It belongs to Dr. David. This is no longer a ghost story. Something very real has happened in these woods. The sheriff demands more information from H, but H keeps saying the same thing. A monster attacked him, a flying creature, something from the sky. With no other evidence and no body, the sheriff makes a decision. He calls an emergency meeting at Claire's diner and asks all the residents to come. The meeting fills the diner quickly. The sheriff stands up and addresses the crowd in a calm, measured voice. He tells them that an unknown predator is in the area. He says they do not have all the answers yet. He asks everyone to stay alert, stay home, lock up their animals, and most importantly, not go into the forest. But then, Deputy Susie walks in carrying a paper bag. She sets it on the counter and opens it. Inside is the rest of what was found in the forest. David's arm. The room goes silent for half a second, and then erupts into panic. People start shouting. The sheriff snaps at Susie to take it back to the station immediately. He turns back to the crowd and tries to hold things together, repeating his instructions firmly. No trips to the forest. Stay indoors. Keep calm. Someone in the crowd raises their hand and asks about the festival. It is one of the biggest events of the year. People have been looking forward to it for months. Is it still happening? Jake speaks up and says it should be postponed. Whatever is out there is dangerous, and they do not know what they are dealing with yet. But the sheriff shakes his head. He does not want to cause a town-wide panic. The festival will go ahead as planned. The meeting breaks up just as a new call comes in. A farmer named Thomas has been attacked on his property. The sheriff drives out to the farm immediately. At the same time, Colonel Travis is standing in his garden with a pair of binoculars, scanning the sky. He is still trying to figure out who or what dropped a moose head onto his lawn. He points the binoculars toward the tree line and sees it, the dragon, enormous and dark against the pale sky, flying slowly over the area as if it owns every inch of it. Travis gets in his car and drives fast toward town. He needs to tell someone, but halfway there, the dragon appears again, right in the middle of the road. Travis slams on the brakes, jumps out with his rifle, and fires at the creature. He misses. The dragon disappears back into the sky and Travis floors it into town. He goes straight to Deputy Susie and tells her everything. She listens with a polite smile, and the kind of patience people use when they think someone has lost their mind. She tells him to go home and rest, but she does radio the sheriff, who has just arrived at Thomas's farm and does not answer. The sheriff pushes open the stable door and calls out for Thomas. No one answers. He takes another step and his boot slides in something wet. He looks down. Blood everywhere. And Thomas's body is lying on the ground nearby. The sheriff is not a man who has dealt with crime scenes like this. The sight hits him hard. The room spins. He falls unconscious right there on the stable floor. Back in town, Colonel Travis finds Hampton at the radio station and begs her to make an emergency broadcast, to warn people, to call for help, to do something. But Hampton explains that she cannot just go on air with a story like this without government authorization. She refuses. Frustrated, Travis goes to find Farley, a local man who is busy setting up food stalls for the upcoming festival. Farley listens, nods politely, and then tells Travis he sounds like a lunatic. And then the ice dragon lands in the middle of town, right in front of the radio station. In broad daylight, Hampton sees it through the window. She does not waste a second. She dives to the controls and starts broadcasting an emergency call. She needs reinforcements. She needs help. She needs someone to hear her. But the dragon swings its massive tail and brings down the town's electrical pylons. The power goes out. The radio goes dead. The entire system collapses. Out at Thomas's farm, the sheriff slowly comes back to his senses. He gets on his radio and tells Susie to get everyone off the streets and back into their homes immediately. Susie steps outside with a megaphone and starts giving the order. She does not get far. The dragon swoops down from the sky and hits her with its claws. In one terrible moment, Susie is gone. The crowd that had gathered around her scatters in every direction, running and screaming. Complete chaos breaks out across Beaver Mills. Inside the diner, Claire and Jake hear the screaming. They rush to the window and watch as the ice dragon moves through the streets, enormous and unstoppable. It reaches the diner and slams its jaws into the front door, tearing it off. People inside dive behind tables and press themselves against the walls, too terrified to breathe. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the dragon pulls back. It turns away from the diner and moves on through town, picking off residents one by one as it goes. Shortly after, Hampton and Farley burst through the diner door, out of breath and shaking. They tell everyone that the dragon is everywhere, moving through the streets, attacking people, taking bodies away. There is no pattern to it. It is just hunting. Claire is the first to say it out loud. She thinks it is a dragon, not a bear, not a wolf, not any kind of animal that belongs in Alaska. Hampton thinks she is being ridiculous. But Farley speaks up. He explains that his father came from Norway and brought with him the old stories, the Norse legends that most people have long forgotten. According to those legends, a creature like this is called a wyvern. It comes from the darkest depths of the underworld. It has a hunger that never stops. In the old stories, it was supposed to feed only on criminals and wrongdoers. But over time, it lost that purpose and began devouring everyone in its path without any judgment or reason. The Norse legends also say that the wyvern once attacked Odin himself, the greatest of the gods, and as punishment, Odin had it sealed away inside a massive block of polar ice, imprisoned for eternity. But eternity ended when the ice melted. Farley tells them that when he and his father used to go fishing in the mountains, his father would sometimes stop and listen. He said he could hear something beneath the cracking ice, a low, distant roar. His father always believed it was the wyvern, waiting, patient, knowing that one day the world would warm enough to set it free. The room goes quiet as everyone processes what this means. Jake asks the only question that matters. Is there a way to kill it? Farley thinks about it. He says that in the old Viking stories, people made human sacrifices to calm the creature. Everyone in the room immediately shuts that idea down. Jake makes a decision. He and Claire are going to find the sheriff and figure out how to get reinforcements into town. They need help from outside. They slip out of the diner and start moving through the empty streets. As they reach the edge of town, they spot the dragon in the distance, circling low before landing somewhere in the forest. Jake wants to follow it, not to fight it, not yet, but to find out where it is nesting. That information could be the key to everything. He tells Claire to wait in the car. He takes a gun and heads into the trees alone. He finds the nest quickly, a massive, messy structure built from broken wood, crushed cars, and debris. He studies it carefully. Then he hears the gunshot crack of Claire's pistol from back at the car. He runs. When he gets back to the road, the car door is hanging off its hinges, and Claire is gone. His heart drops. But then he hears movement in the trees, and Claire stumbles out, breathless and scraped up but alive. She managed to fight the dragon off with her pistol and escape into the forest just in time. A moment later, Colonel Travis appears behind them. He has been following the sounds of gunfire. He tells them about the cars he found on the main road, completely wrecked, with no survivors anywhere near them. His theory is grim but logical. The dragon is not just hunting randomly. It is blocking the roads. It is keeping the town sealed off so no one can escape. It is turning Beaver Mills into its own personal feeding ground. The three of them head back to the diner. Jake gets on the communicator and tries to reach Hampton at the radio station. She picks up and tells him the terrible news. The sheriff is dead too. The dragon got him. Jake sits with that for a moment. Then he starts thinking. Hampton says she still has a radio at the station, but it is not powerful enough to reach anyone far away. She needs a stronger antenna. There is one on the roof of a nearby store. If they can get it and connect it to her radio, they might be able to reach someone who can help. The group gathers the weapons from the sheriff's abandoned vehicle, ammunition, rifles, everything they can carry, and hands it all to the colonel to distribute. Then Jake and Hampton head to the store to get the antenna. Jake climbs up to the roof. The antenna is bolted down with 4 screws. He starts removing them one by one, completely exposed on the rooftop with nowhere to hide. He gets the first 3 screws out. Then he hears the sound of wings. The dragon is coming straight at him. Hampton pulls out her pistol from below and fires at the creature, just enough to distract it and buy Jake a few more seconds. He wrenches the last screw free, grabs the antenna, and throws it down to her. They both run. The dragon dives after them. They throw themselves through the diner door with barely a second to spare. Inside, Hampton wastes no time. She connects the antenna to the radio, and Jake starts turning the dial, searching for a signal. After several failed attempts, a voice comes through. It is a security agent from the Alaskan Authority. The signal is weak and breaking up. Jake knows that no one will believe a story about a dragon, so he does not tell that story. He pretends to be Sheriff Dawson. He says there has been a gas explosion in town. He says they are cut off and injured and need urgent backup before things get worse. The signal cuts out before Jake can get a confirmation. They do not know if anyone is coming. They are on their own, at least for now. Jake looks around at the people in the diner, shaken, exhausted, frightened, but still alive. He tells them they are not going to sit here and wait to be picked off one by one. They are going to fight back. Everyone agrees. The group starts pulling together whatever weapons and tools they can find. Farley and H go to get fuel for the vehicles, but as they step outside, the dragon lands on a nearby rooftop and spots them. Farley panics, and the dragon's tail catches him across the side, a serious wound that drops him immediately. Jake charges outside and pulls Farley back into the diner before the dragon can finish what it started. The group patches Farley up and tries to stay focused. Then the nest reveals something no one expected. Dr. David is still alive. He is inside the dragon's nest, badly injured and missing an arm, but breathing. Using his tie as a tourniquet, he somehow managed to stop the bleeding. While looking around the nest in a daze, he discovers something else. 3 large eggs, sitting deep in the debris. Dragon eggs. Before he can figure out what to do with this information, the dragon returns. But instead of eating him, it grabs him in its jaws, carefully like a cat carrying a kitten, and flies him back toward town. The group watches in stunned silence as the dragon drops David's body on the ground in the middle of the street, right where everyone can see him. It is obvious what this is. The dragon is using David as bait. It wants to draw the survivors out. Jake knows it is a trap. He goes anyway. He runs out into the street and grabs David while Hampton and the colonel fire at the dragon from the diner windows to give him cover. The dragon charges anyway. It is almost on top of Jake when Farley makes his move. Badly wounded, barely able to stand, Farley steps out into the open and shouts at the creature. He waves his arms. He does everything he can to pull its attention away from Jake. It works. The dragon turns toward Farley. Jake drags David to safety. Farley does not make it back. The group mourns him quietly and quickly. There is no time for more than that. Then the radio crackles to life. A message from the Alaskan Safety Authority comes through. A rescue helicopter is on its way. The survivors feel something they have not felt in hours. Hope. They watch through the windows as the helicopter appears in the distance, its lights cutting through the gray sky. It is almost there. The dragon comes out of nowhere. It hits the helicopter from behind with full force, tearing it apart mid-air. The wreckage crashes to the ground outside town. The pilot is gone. The hope goes with it. Claire calls everyone back. David is fading fast. He is losing too much blood. They gather around him and he uses his last breaths to tell them what he saw in the nest. 3 eggs, still in the nest. If those eggs hatch, Beaver Mills will not just have 1 dragon to deal with. It will have 4. David closes his eyes. Jake stands up. He looks at the group and tells them straight. They have to go into that forest, find the nest, destroy the eggs, and kill the dragon. Right now, before it is too late. He asks Edna to stay behind and keep the diner safe. Then the rest of them head into the forest. When they reach the nest, they find something useful buried in the rubble nearby, a power generator. If they can get it running, it could produce enough electricity to electrocute the dragon and destroy the eggs at the same time. Hampton knows electronics. She gets to work reconnecting the generator while the others stand watch. When everything is ready, H steps up and grabs the crank to start it. The dragon lands right on top of them. It swings its tail and sends H flying. Jake, the Colonel, and Claire open fire while Hampton fights to get the generator started, but the dragon moves too fast. It escapes before the current can reach it, and H is dead. The Colonel is furious. He turns his gun on the eggs and starts firing. Jake stops him. Those eggs are the most valuable thing they have right now. They are bait, and bait is the only weapon they have left. The group makes their way back toward the road. Along the way, they come across more wrecked vehicles, cars smashed beyond recognition, scattered across the highway like toys, and among them sits a large cargo truck, big, heavy, powerful. Jake looks at the truck, then he looks at the road. Then an idea forms in his mind. He is going to drive the truck. He is going to put the eggs in the cab to lure the dragon. He is going to drive as fast as he can and lead it into a trap. He will do it alone. He is not risking anyone else. He tells Claire and the Colonel to go back to town. Claire tries to argue. Jake does not budge. Once they are gone, Jake loads the eggs carefully into the cab, climbs in, starts the engine, and hammers down on the horn. The sound blares out across the empty road. He drives fast, honking constantly, making as much noise as possible. After a few kilometers, the sky darkens above him. The dragon is coming. It drops down and slams into the back of the truck, trying to get to the eggs. Jake is ready. He hits the brakes as hard as he can. The truck screams to a stop, and the dragon crashes into it, stunned by the sudden impact. Jake floors the accelerator again. The dragon shakes itself off and launches back into the air, this time positioning itself directly in front of the windshield, staring through the glass at him. Jake does not slow down. Ahead of him, the road runs straight to the edge of a cliff. The drop below is enormous. Jake reaches the edge and throws open the cab door. He tucks his body and rolls out of the moving truck onto the road, hitting the ground hard. The truck keeps going. It launches off the cliff with the dragon right in front of it, and both of them drop together into the darkness below. The explosion that follows lights up the Alaskan sky. The fireball rolls up from the bottom of the cliff, consuming the truck, the eggs, and the dragon completely. When the smoke clears, there is nothing left but flames and wreckage far below. He stares up at the pale sky and breathes. Back in Beaver Mills, Claire and the other survivors stand together outside the diner, watching the distant glow on the horizon from the explosion. Nobody says anything. They just wait. Then they see a figure walking slowly down the road toward town. Jake. Claire walks toward him first, then runs. The survivors behind her let out a collective breath that feels like it has been held for hours. Jake reaches them and tells them simply, "It is over. The dragon is gone. The eggs are destroyed. Beaver Mills is safe." And then he says one more thing. He is not leaving. He came to this town to disappear, to run from the memory of his brother and the guilt that had been eating him alive for months. But somewhere in the middle of all the chaos and the fear and the fighting to survive, something shifted. He stopped running. He made a choice to stay and fight, and it turns out that is exactly what he needed. He looks at Claire. She looks back at him. And in the wreckage of a town that somehow survived an ice dragon, something new begins.